Richard, it's always good to see you, my friend. I always appreciate the opportunity to connect and just the words of wisdom. And over the last couple of years, we've talked a lot about difficult discussions that we have as leaders, emotional intelligence, and how critical it is for us to show up the right way as leaders and frankly as people. Um, right now, the world's kind of under a different lens. There's a lot transpiring. I think we'd almost be remiss not to acknowledge that, and I sometimes I feel like life is like this pendulum. We almost swing so heavily toward that shiny object, in this case, AI, and how it's changing everything about how we work. That in amidst that swing, we can't lose the humanity. I think it's time almost for a refresh, frankly, of some of the conversations that we've had in years past. I know you still do a lot of work in those spaces. And I'd love to hear, what are your thoughts, as we kind of think about 2025, difficult discussions that we may be having with people,
Sure.
but also the emotional intelligence that's critical for us all to best lead amidst this AI boom, how do we still make sure we're still being good humans?
Yeah, and that's actually where doing a lot of emotional intelligence workshops here recently, difficult discussions, and even executive presence workshops that I'm doing another one today. What's amazing to me around just all of those soft skills, we call those soft skills. My grandson just graduated high school, which is hard for me to even say those words, Carson, that he graduated high school. But what's amazing about him, and thinking about the left brain and right brain, that left brain being that data driven, analytical, all of the processing of information, right? And then our right brain being more of that emotional side of our brain or creative side of our brain. And a lot of the AI is coming from that left side to the processes, the programs, all of the things that are making our life better and so many great things. However, for me, it's forcing me to think about that right side, that as humans showing up as a better human being. AI is always going to show up from here on out as having better processes, better ways to do the work, and better ways to do the systems. But as humans, we need to plant our flag in the ground and say, I am going to be a better human. And what does that look like as a worker, as a professional in my career, at home, being a better dad, a better father, a better G Diddy, as I am called. So
Love it.
all of those things, being a better human, and I, I I really think. And one of the things at my work that we're really focused on is leveling up the human beings to show up better, because we're never going to be able to compete with AI. AI is always going to beat us to be quicker with the process. Calculators, when they first came out, they would have those competitions between the smartest person being able to figure out the math calculations and the person punching it in. The AI almost wins every time when it comes to that left side of our brain. And I just think it's time across the board, frontline workers, middle managers, and senior vice presidents and senior executives, to think about, what can I do to show up every day as a better human being?
Well, I mean, AI is even outperforming medical professionals in some situations as far as being able to diagnose more accurately, which is very thought-provoking when you think about the implications. And that, sometimes there are probably some medical professionals who are not necessarily known for their soft skills. And so I think it changes the game and how we think about the humanity that we can bring to every situation. AI definitely makes you think as a corporate citizen more, 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 right? It makes us more productive. We can do things that used to take us hours and minutes. Um,
Absolutely.
it frees up time. How are we going to spend that time? Richard. And I think that's the challenge we've got to put to ourselves. How can we reinvest that time? Because time is our greatest resource. Thinking about how to invest that time in the relationships that matter, being a husband, being a dad, um, spending time up leveling, upskilling. I've been in the sales racket for a long, long time. And, think about from a medical professional perspective, if I'm still using archaic mechanisms of surgery that were prominent 30 years ago, I become obsolete. And in this day and age, I'm trying to be as invaluable as I possibly can to my team, to my leadership, to my organization, finding new and unique ways to break molds, find ways that I can, create strategy and processes that even as a 46-year-old salesman, I can still be at the top of my game. And I think that's the challenge that I pose to people is how do we lean into this moment, reap the benefits, but also recognize that it isn't about, it's a lot of the things that we've talked about before. It isn't about like being the smartest person in the room. It's more about being curious and not just efficient. I did a talk yesterday, a podcast that I was on, and it was all about the value of listening. And I think we would all agree that, we could all do more listening, but how are you listening? How are you showing up? How are you being curious in situations? When somebody shares that they're having a struggle or a challenge, are we trying to be quick to diagnose and tell them what to do? Or are we asking them to tell us more about that situation? And there's a lot of people right now that are, I've had a lot of friends who've been impacted by layoffs. I've got a lot of people that I know that are scared about the future of the workforce. And these are legitimate concerns. And rather than brush them off, whitewash them, we got to lean in and we got to be there for other people, seek to serve. And I think right now we got to double down on what are historically these soft skills that are pretty critical.
Yeah, and I've actually eliminated the word soft skills. I just call it people skills because I
like
think
that.
we have to, and I don't know what happened to us, but somewhere along the way, all of us became conversational narcissists, and and me included. And it might have been COVID. I think it was a little bit before COVID when it started happening. Maybe social media. I'm not sure. But somewhere along the way, we became conversational narcissists. Let me give you an example. What you just said. Carson, you share with me, hey, I just got laid off. Oh, my God, Carson, I remember when I got laid off, what I did. This is what happened to me, and this is how I felt. Or, man, I got a friend of ours that's going through a divorce. Imagine them coming to me and saying, man, me and Susie, we're going through a divorce. And I say, oh my gosh, well, you need to get ready because let me tell you what happened when I went through a divorce. And we think we're being helpful. We truly are wanting to be helpful. However, we are stealing the conversation instead of what you just talked about, becoming a better human is, I think, partly being a better conversationalist. And I think part of becoming a better conversationalist is becoming that better listener or asking better questions. I just think if we learn to ask better questions when somebody's going through something, let's use the topic of divorce or use the topic of losing your job. My God, Carson, I can't imagine what you feel like. How are you feeling right now? And just stopping yourself from giving advice here, let me share with you this 14-point soliloquy, and it worked for me. I'll bet it will help you. I just think stopping ourselves, I do it all the time, and I pull back. I did it before we started recording. I tried to pull myself back from offering advice. And many times it's just asking the question, what do you need from me?
It's powerful, man. I couldn't agree more because I think about these situations and put yourself in the same shoes. I mean, true, we have had some of these shared experiences, and so I think we feel this compulsion to want to relate, right?
Yeah.
To say like, oh well, hey, I went through that. This is what you need to do. But the reality of the matter is that doesn't look like support in the moment. What does that person need or want? They may want or need to vent and be heard and seen for the contributions that they brought to an organization for several years. Um, I had people asking me over the last week, can you please go out and, make some introductions for me or write a LinkedIn recommendation? And I think it's what's the action that I can take in this moment? And sometimes it's not a physical action, it's just being present and allowing that space for this person to unload. And, AI is not going to know the steps to take to hold somebody's hand through a tough moment, right?
Yeah.
There's answers out there that AI can give based on the
Yeah.
accumulation of facts, right? But
Sure.
the humanity, we're hardwired to connect with people, and oftentimes every outward action that you see from somebody is often a bid to connect in some way. Some of it could be misguided, right? I've absolutely done things that are reactionary because of fear or because of feeling unseen or unheard or feeling unappreciated. And as I get older and hopefully wiser, I try to show up better in those types of situations and to be able to say like, hey, first there's the inner monologue. There's the I've got to make sure that I'm, being realistic in these situations and that I'm not making it all about me and I'm understanding the other variables, but also just being able to trust somebody, reaching out to somebody that you can trust and being able to say like, hey, I'm really struggling. I was really hoping that this situation would happen. Can you share that perspective? My wife and I have this deal. Like we always ask each other, like, hey, are you looking for me to solve the problem in the moment, or do you just want me to listen? And I think
Such a
that's
great
an
question.
important question. Like, how can I best help you right now?
Yeah, and I love that, and I think that is emotional maturity and also marriage maturity that comes along and helps you to start asking those right questions. But when you think about planting that flag in the ground, okay, moving forward, middle of 2025 into 2025, going into 2026 and 2027, how can I be a better human? Doubling down, tripling down on what it means to be a human. If somebody's going through a situation, maybe they did get laid off. Instead of asking those questions, hey, what can I do to help? Can I get your name out there? That puts all the pressure on the other person to come up with solutions of how they can help, how you can help them. So it's like, hey, do you need flowers? Do you need money? Do you need job recommend? And they're like, their brain is trying to figure out where they're at right now. So instead of, hey, every Tuesday I'm going to text you. You can ignore it. You can you can answer it. You can thumbs up it. Whatever you want to do. But every Tuesday I'm going to text you. And I'm going to be there for you through this process.
Mm.
My gosh, I felt that just saying that. It just was like a little bit of a weight there coming off of us. And how do we show up as better humans at work? Well, it may be doubling down on effort. It may be doubling down on attitude, projecting a even more positive attitude. I've never, and I have to be careful because I know your listeners are far and wide, Carson, but in my recollection, I have never seen a really great, powerful, impactful leader that was negative. Ever. Most great, incredible, impactful, influential leaders that I know of have a positive bent.
Yeah.
So what if we double down on attitude? I'm going to double down on my work ethic. I can't do a lot of different things, but I can tell you this, I can show up early. I can double down on my effort. I can double down on my please and thank yous and yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, thank you. All of the things that almost are archaic. We can bring some things back in style of what it means to be a grateful human. And those kind of things can start shifting cultures of companies, start shifting cultures of your team, and start shifting how people perceive you.
Mm. It's space and grace, you know. I think about the things that
That's
we
great.
can and should be leaning into in this time more than ever. Like you said, doubling down. I had a great manager a few years ago, and for various reasons, I was got I think I picked up a lot from managers that I had. And, they were always quick to just jump in and talk about the business. There was no real personal connection. This person sought out a personal connection. And in fact, I always felt this compulsion too when I was jumping on with a manager. Like I felt this compulsion to just jump right into the productivity. Hey, I'm doing this and this and this and this because I just want to impress the heck out of my boss. And they're like, yeah, Carson's great.
Yeah.
But she was like, she stopped me. She's like, how are you? Like, there are entire conversations. You may go into a call with a direct report, with a teammate, with a colleague, and have this preset agenda. And that agenda could get shot to heck within 5 seconds if you say, how are you? Wow, I'm really struggling with XYZ. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to say something pleasant and then switch to your agenda? Or are you going to
Yeah.
open up the space for this person to be heard and seen? I think it's got to become more common for us to lean into the hard conversations and build more muscle memory there.
Sure.
Sometimes we shy away from these tough conversations. I mean, I sent a note out to my team last week and was like, "Hey, I know you're seeing all of this stuff that's happening. There's
Right.
people in our industry that are, losing their jobs. There's a lot of change that's transpiring. I'm here if you want to talk. I know that these things are challenging. If you have people that that are being impacted and I can help them in some way, let me know. Think about these things where what in this moment, that KPI doesn't matter near as much as how can I show up with and for my team and people. And here's the thing, Richard, I have never worried about a quota or a number in my entire life. I've obsessed over people and process. And I am not going to purport that I always get it right because I don't. Sometimes we're on that pendulum too. We're trying to watch where that pendulum is going, and we may be trying to jump to chase things. So
Oh
it
my
might
God.
make me not show up the right way in that conversation. But what we can do is we can learn from that. And we can also go into the next conversation better as a result. And I think it's key to ask people, like, genuinely, how are you feeling? Um, Technology can do a lot of things. It can handle
Yeah.
a lot of busy work. But frankly, if it does that, it gives you more time to focus on the heart work. It gives you more time to be the type of human that you want to be. It gives you more time to mentor, to inspire, to up level, to learn. Those things don't change. And I think in this moment, we've got to take that balcony view approach to not get stuck in the wow, this is a lot of rapid change. There's a lot happening around me, but we've got to take that balcony view approach to see the opportunity for us to be better for our fellow humans.
And you touched on it, Carson, meeting with your teams. And I know you have a lot of people that listen that are mid-level managers, upper level managers. And sometimes it's, if we're going to double down on this thing called being a better human, maybe it's, and I write down and collect questions that I can ask and ask in a better way. I collect them for like elevator or happenstance water cooler if I'm going to be at the corporate offices instead of getting in an elevator. Hey, how's it going, Carson? I haven't seen you forever. How's everything?
How's the weather?
Yeah, that kind of stuff just leads nowhere. Instead of asking, hey, what are you working on recently that you're really excited about?
Hmm.
I write that question down and remind myself people want to talk about some of the things that they're excited. What are you most proud of that in the last couple of months that you've had a chance to be a part of? Oh
Yes.
my gosh. That changes a whole conversation when you ask somebody, what's the thing at work that you're most proud of in recent days? And those kind of questions have to be intentional,
Yeah.
and you have to write them. That's doubling down or staking our flag in the ground. And as a manager, if you got to have what you were talking about, some of these difficult conversations, which we got to drive the profits and we got to drive the business. But it's the humans that are doing that in our organizations. So having some softer skills to be able to say, hey, Carson, this is where I would like for this conversation to land. Wow. That really sets you up to go, oh, okay, so Richard has the best intent for this conversation to land here when we get through. We may have to go through some bumps and hurdles to get there, but and even at the end of the conversation, sometimes I like to say, Carson, we talked about a lot of stuff today, maybe some things we need to change, some things we need to work on, some things I've asked of you. What did you hear me say? Because somewhere between our lips and our ears and that gray matter between our ears, that gets twisted between one human to another. And so, what did you hear me say is a great question to kind of put a circle around a conversation, because it lets the human say, well, what I heard you say is I suck and I got to do better. No, that's not what I'm talking. And so then you get a chance to reframe the conversation. I just think those are the small little things. And again, it's questions, right? It's asking some human connection questions that I think are, helpful.
Two things that I'm loving right now are up leveling and recognizing others. And, I say lean into the moment. I'm having AI make recommendations for me for books based on what I'm super passionate about and what I
Yeah.
want to get better at. And frankly, what's great about it is I'm being able to make recommendations to others. And that's always a conversation too that I like to have too. Like what books are you reading? When you talk
Yeah.
about questions, when I meet with mentors, like what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are the podcasts that you're consuming? Because I want to continually sharpen my axe. The other thing that I think is pretty amazing is, you talk about AI, but people value how you as a leader make them feel. And I can throw I have all these robust spreadsheets and reports and um, all of this history of dialogue. Guess what? I can throw all that into the AI engine and I can say, hey, give me 20 things that I can give kudos to my team about today. Or create a PowerPoint recognizing these markets for their performance based on these metrics. And I've done that. And the fact that, it might have taken me hours to look up all of these data points,
Yeah.
create a robust
Oh,
PowerPoint, go through and, recognize my team. A couple of weeks ago, as the year or our fiscal year was coming to an end, I took dashboard upon dashboard, Excel readouts, fed them into my AI engine, and I
yeah.
basically said, "Hey, like, draw some conclusions from this. I want to have a celebratory meeting with my team, and I want to be able to call out like where metrics are really strong, performances are strong, things that maybe I wouldn't catch, how people are performing relative to other markets, things like that." Richard, you should have seen the readout that it gave. And we basically spent an hour just reflecting on the year and calling out great performances. Those are the types of meetings and conversations that people are never going to forget. Doing those fun things, doing that recognition, that camaraderie, those feelings can't be replaced. And what's amazing about AI is that it managed to create that experience in far less time and in a way that probably had a more lasting impact because I was able to recognize so many people. But it was AI that kind of pointed me to the direction that I wanted to go. We're the ones who have to, at the end of the day, give the AI the instructions that we want it to give. And if we give it instructions that can help us show up as better humans,
Yeah.
show up as better communicators, wow, what a difference that could make.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Maybe just typing in how to be a better conversationalist, or typing in how to be a better listener, or typing in, uh, give me some questions to ask to help me get past surface level conversations. And write those questions down, make a list, add to the list, memorize the list, and you'll be surprised that AI can actually help you become a better human. And working, there's not a magic wand that you can wave over somebody and all of a sudden their brand or their personality completely changes. I don't think that there is a magic wand. If there is, sign me up for it. However, just like everything else, becoming a better human takes work, it takes practice, and most importantly, like you said, somebody that you trust that will hold up the mirror in front of you and say, hey, maybe next time you might approach it this way a little bit differently. I know you've tried this in the past, but maybe phrase the question this way. And you'd be surprised that those kind of things, having those trusted people around you, and that's not easy in and of itself. That takes work and failure. But at the end of the day, a phrase I banned. So at the close of the chapter, I think that becoming better human beings, making your human value and human worth, your human capital better in how you show up is the secret sauce and the answer to connect with AI and push us all forward.
The criticality of earning trust, being transparent, and being communicative are never going to go away. And in fact, if anything, even leveraging the AI to give you suggestions on what to say in certain situations where you have positive intent to go in a different direction, but you just don't know how. It's been a great guide. I mean, to be completely frank, I mean, I've even used it when I knew I had to send a super empathetic text to my wife, and I didn't know exactly what to say. And it armed me with what to say, and I said it, and that was the development of kind of that muscle and that new muscle memory, and it worked. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Those types of things, I think, leveraging AI to help us improve in the areas where we want to improve as humans is fantastic. And other than that, don't lose sight of the importance of true connection, because it is going to become more and more and more important, because it is the only thing that is truly real.
Absolutely. And getting those questions and making those a part of your tool belt, whether you're a seller, whether you're a mid-manager, whether you're a human being, having great questions to ask another human being and letting them be the star of the show, shining the light on them, will make you the best communicator, the best conversationalist, the best listener, and the best human that you could possibly be.
Powerful. Richard, my takeaway from today is the questions, logging those great questions to be front and center for me when I meet with others. Better questions to open up the dialogue, especially what people are proud of. What are they really sinking their teeth into? Because I think that can illuminate what are their why, their motivators, their passion areas. And frankly, if we understand those, we understand them a lot better. When we understand what people are super passionate about, what they're sinking their teeth into, what are they reading, what's keeping them going, that can really help us show it better for them.
Yeah. And if we do nothing else, let's not be a conversational narcissist.
Love that. I always appreciate these opportunities, my friend, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Carson. I appreciate you.